Good morning. I'll give you all a couple seconds to settle in. How's the bear market going, people? How are we feeling? Good? Who here feels that you're losing or have already lost your motivation to build in the Web3 space? Motivation. Who still has motivation to build in the space? Couple hands? Everybody? Some of them? Who feels that we have made meaningful progress in the last 2 years with the capital that we had? Hands? Less than half of the people. That's not good. All right, so today I'm going to give you a quick overview of the emerging regenerative finance space, and I'll make the argument why building for the global crises is the best use case of blockchain, and why you as a builder should probably be looking into solving impact problems instead of only making money. Who remembers this? 2008, I was like 12 when this happened, so I don't know much about it. But what I do know is that this was the financial crisis of 2008, and that there was a lot of pain and friction behind this picture. What you see is an investment bank going bankrupt, but what you don't see is all the people in the back losing their homes, losing their faith into financial institutions, into institutions in general. A global crisis that took years and years for people to get over. But it also created one of the most relevant innovations of today's day and age, the Bitcoin white paper. And following that, the launch of Bitcoin. It was a direct relationship or a direct reaction to this crumbling financial system. It was looking for an alternative or a complement to this bureaucratic, inefficient, impersonal system that was clearly not working for us already 15 years ago and still today. With the Bitcoin white paper, we started this revolution of blockchain, which took us all the way from cryptocurrencies to this ReFi space that I'm going to tell you about. But let's settle into today a bit, looking at some of the biggest challenges we face today. This is a shot from the World Economic Forum. Who's afraid of the World Economic Forum? Hands? No maxis? Awesome. 2 hands? Okay, sorry. They're not that bad. Maybe they are, but we can do better. Look at a couple challenges that they're prescribing. They might be wrong, but it's very likely that they will be coordinating efforts, energy, money to these challenges. We can't ignore it. At the top of it, you see that it's all environmental, climate action, extreme weather, biodiversity loss, but we're also seeing more societal society, where the economic side is only down at the bottom. So as we're seeing, we are starting to realize that our systems aren't just under financial pressure, but we're also under environmental pressure, under pressures in society. Now, we can get this bleak image from this. It's like, oh, there's so many challenges, right? There's climate change, it's getting hot. It's freaking hot. This summer was incredible bad, to be honest. And we can look at the numbers. Climate change will cost us about 23 trillion by 2050. The global debt right now is at the highest point ever, with the highest leverage ever. 300 trillion US dollar, a 3.49 leverage on average. That's a lot of debt. And we're seeing it now. We're seeing it in inflation. The average this year or last year was 7% all across the board. This means that people have 7% less value, 7% less well-being, 7% less houses. It's struggling. It's taking people's value away. But what if we turn it around? What if we don't look at these things as challenges or problems, but as opportunities? Because in business, you're being rewarded for solving problems, for building something that solves real people's problems. And these are big problems. If you look at the climate change market, right, $23 trillion, that's way bigger than any part of the blockchain space nowadays. It's bigger than the majority of economic value that we're coordinating right now. So it's also enabling us with our new innovations to look at these things and say, hey, if the world is gravitating towards solving these problems, and we have innovations that they've never played around with, why don't we spend our time here? A common thread among these challenges is that although they're global, they can only be solved on the ground. We can't stop climate change just from our living rooms here in Berlin or wherever in Europe. We need to make sure that the actions happen all across the globe and that it happens efficiently. Because in the end, it's all coordination. Beautiful meme by everybody, essentially, in the ReFi space. But in order to get there, we need to accelerate these local coordinations. And we can do that with the blockchain infrastructure. Our open source knowledge and tech allow us for the first time ever to have pure and true digital assets and digital settlement. We're able to coordinate capital around the world faster than ever before. And by innovations in the measurement, reporting, and verification space, combining AI, machine learning, blockchain, we're able to measure impact better than ever before and valuing it. By doing this, we're able to allow local coordination like never before. The challenge, most of the actions we're doing nowadays are still in this degenerative or value extracting paradigm. But what if we move from degenerative to regenerative? What would it look like if our existing financial stack on top of blockchain, the DeFi space, moves towards something that's more regenerative? What if we go from profit extraction, tokens that are here for the pump and the dump, let's make money in 18 months and get rich and then exit? How do we move from there, from this profit generation and extractive economics, towards a world that's about value realization and regenerating, improving the state of well-being of all? Moving away from this short-term thinking in a year or 2 years, lockups of 18 months, to long-term oriented. What would our space be in 10 years or 15 years from today? What is the world we want to live in? Moving away from this mechanistic or reductionist mindset of just focusing on one single thing, one KPI, money, to a more natural and holistic view of the world, of the value we create. This is a beautiful graph that explains or kind of visualizes this transition from degenerative to regenerative. From this conventional thinking where everything was built and structured like machines, like factories, where people were working like slaves, 9 to 5, 9 to 9, 6 days a week, to a world that is built more like nature, more patterns, more holistic thinking. And that's when you get into this transition. So initially we were this conventional mindset. We were taking everything. Our economies were just going into places, extracting value. And over time, we've started to move towards sustainability. We realized that we're destroying the earth, we're destroying the social fabric, and we need to slow it down. We need to do less bad. Now, are we going to be able to make the world a better place if we only do less bad? Probably not. We need to start doing good. We need to start making things better again. And that's where this regeneration comes into play. It's taking less energy to do more. It's a mindset shift from extraction to creation. And it's on top of this mindset shift that we're seeing more and more innovations, especially over the past 2 years, that are tackling some of these crises. One of them are the environmental projects. Think from all the way from on-chain carbon credits to better measurement, reporting, and verification. You may know some of these projects. ClimateDAO, they were the first ones to use Ponzinomics to buy a ton of carbon credits with the intent to experiment with how we're able to accelerate that market with new capital. That was powered by Toucan, a project based in Berlin and Switzerland that is bringing on these traditional claims or credits from the Web2 world and bringing it onto Web3, allowing for more transparency, faster settlement, better markets. Or Region Network, taking it one step further. They're making Web3 native standards for measurement, reporting, and verification, and carbon credits or climate credits. By creating these markets, we're able to create an experience that's 10 times better than the conventional systems. Right now, if you're a country like Germany or the Netherlands, and you want to invest into carbon credits, you're most likely going to end up with a claim on carbon of a forest in Brazil or somewhere with very manual and slow and expensive ways to measure, report, and verify that. There was an article a couple months ago that over 90% of these claims were false. They didn't have any value, were false claims. And that has a big effect on people like us, right? We're not going to buy anything that's 90% a scam, besides cryptocurrencies. But there is a way forward. And then there's a project like Gainforest, for example, that's using advanced AI, machine learning, on-chain assets to just create this environment where you can literally 3D see every single tree, and there's no argument to be made. This is happening. People are planting trees, are making the world a better place, and are being rewarded for it. Let's look at these economic crises. We just had Circles right before me. They're doing amazing work. And there's other projects that are also doing comparable or similar work. So for example, in Kenya, you have a project called Grassroots Economics. Who've heard of Grassroots Economics before? Cool, then I'm going to teach a lot of people something new. So Grassroots Economics is a project that started with the Red Cross in Kenya. They have created a mutual credit network in about 200 communities, over 50,000 users. And they've been able to leverage $1 million of the Red Cross to coordinate about $6 million of value every year. And they're essentially allowing people to leverage their donations, to leverage their impact. And they're now scaling to other countries like Zimbabwe and, if I'm not mistaken, Cameroon, another country. Sorry for not knowing that. Then there's EthicHub, who have been providing on-chain loans to farmers in Latin America for over 4 years already. They started all the way back on XDAO, and they've processed over 6 million of loans. And what they're doing is they're enabling these farmers that are traditionally captured into very extractive systems, paying up to 40% returns on their loans, and allowing them to be matched with people like us who are eager to get 10, 11, 12% on our money. Good Dollar, Impact Market, also UBI projects that are taking similar approaches to circles. Some of them are adding in microloans, others are adding in identity, but really trying to find ways to allow local communities to coordinate resources without being dependent on foreign capital, without being dependent on, for example, the US dollar flowing into their economy to create action. Because a lot of communities do have the talent and the land to coordinate value, but what they're missing is this cash, the capital, to realize that value. Then the social side. There's a project called ReFi DAO. Who's heard of ReFi DAO? Also not too many people. Awesome. So ReFi DAO is almost like a spin-off of something like Bankless DAO or the Daoist. And what they're doing is they're creating a social, cultural, and economic movement around this concept of regeneration. And what they've done, they've created over 40 communities around the world that are organizing meetups and events to talk about this concept of regenerative finance, to bring in talent and capital into the space. And today they have about 1,500 members. Then there's Greenpill from one of the founders of Gitcoin that is taking a similar approach and trying to leverage the blockchain technology that we have to allow local communities to do better and get access to these solutions. If you ever wanted to live with a bunch of people for free, the Dream Factory, if you hold their token, you're able to live in their co-living environment. They're making a co-living space, and later today they're also sharing about all of that at an event we're organizing. Then there's Regions Unite. If you're here on Friday and Saturday, they're doing a Regions Unite here in Berlin. It's a great opportunity for you to not only listen to what people are saying, but really connect with other people that are trying to find a way to have a positive impact with the innovations that we're building. Now, the capacity of blockchain is increasing rapidly. This year alone, we're seeing new innovations, from scaling no longer being a big issue to token-bound accounts, smart wallets, progressive web apps. There's so many innovations that allow us to create a UX and experience now that is 10 or even 100 times better than what we had maybe 5 years ago. When I came to my first Eat Berlin in 2019, we couldn't even imagine the solutions that we had nowadays. Back then, everything was proof of work. We were polluting, we were destroying, we were taking. It was all about learning how to even run a stable blockchain. Now, a couple years later, we don't even think about that. I think very few of the talks at this event have been about, oh, how do we maintain a stable blockchain? How do we do these things? We're now progressing to the actual value layer, and how do we realize value in the real world? So imagine being able to move away from a currency that, like Bitcoin, that is purely focused on security of a network, which is a very basic function. We have been able to accomplish that now across the board, towards something that is regenerative by design, something that's driven by, for example, nurturement of nature, the stewardship of nature in communities, or the ability for a solution to tokenize value and bring it on-chain. It's from this point we can start imagining currencies that are embedded into the real world and create these positive feedback loop, that creates these regenerative economics, where every time that it's spent, it creates more conditions for prosperity, where every time, with every person joining the economy, we're increasing our capacity to do good, we're increasing our capacity to value it properly, and we're increasing our capacity to realize that value. Almost like a memeable impact network. And we're quite close, I would argue. We're getting better and better at, like I mentioned, measuring, reporting, and verifying this value. We're getting better and better at acknowledging the value of nature, right? World Economic Forum, all the nations, they're looking at it, they're pouring more and more money into it, and it's really creating this opportunity for people like us to innovate with this new technology. But why would you do it? Does it pay well? Honestly, not that great at this point. However, there are so many new ways of value that you're going to appreciate as you embody this regenerative mindset, as you're going to move past just prices of currencies and looking at number of users, relationships, impact, and I can attest to it. So over here you see a couple of screenshots of the things that I am most proud of. It's no solution, it's not a tech piece, it's nothing. It's real world things happening in the real world that have been created by these solutions. So the first and third picture are from the Colectivo Festival that we organized in the Caribbean last year. We had 700 attendees. We piloted our impact economy solution with over 400 users. And overall, that was a mind-blowing experience. It's something I will never forget, and it's something that keeps me motivated. Even if prices go down, I can look back and say, we did this. We are making a difference. In the middle one, it's a grant we issued, also in the Caribbean, to a group of teenagers. They're called Youth for Climate. They're organizing cleanups and education events. And back in 2019 already, they requested a grant from our on-chain DAO called CuraDAO. And we asked them, why are you coming to this weird blockchain thingy to ask for money? And they said, because no one else is taking us serious. They've worked with the government, with large corporates, all cute, sprinkling money on them. But no one asked them, what do you want to do? How do you want to have an impact on your community? And by our new technologies, we're able to provide people like them with the tools they need to take action and doing it at a big scale. So if you're interested in regenerative finance, the best way I would say is to experiment with it. Either go to Valora.app, which is the main wallet of the Celo ecosystem, which is a blockchain specifically built for impact projects. It's carbon negative, so it's actually subtracting more carbon than it emits by purchasing carbon credits and burning them. Or if you're even more interested, we're organizing a ReFi fundamentals event later today. It's from 2:30 onwards at Factory. The wait list is already long, but if you really, really want to come, give me a hand. I'll find a way to get you in. There we'll have 4 projects that are going to give an explanation of their case study. For example, Gainforest will be there explaining the challenges of the traditional MRV stage and explaining how their innovations are able to surpass these limitations and build a solution that hopefully will be able to have a big impact. So with that, I'll go to Q&A. Looking forward to your questions, and thank you so much.
Hi there. I work in the space. I'm a big fan of Colectivo, so thanks for your talk. Talking to people that are building in this space and using carbon credits, what I hear a lot is that there's a lot of distrust. You're almost piling distrust on top of distrust because you have to convince people about the value of carbon credits, and then you have to convince people of the value of blockchain. And outside this room, blockchain has a lot of distrust. So what would be your advice to builders in the space that are encountering such obstacles?
Yeah, so I think there's a very sad story. Last year, I gave a talk at an organization called Nederland Maakt Impact, which is like the Dutch young, innovative entrepreneur network. And I asked them the question, who thinks blockchain does more harm than good to the world? Everybody raised their hand. I would say 98%. So that's definitely something we need to overcome or find a way around, right? A lot of solutions coming on nowadays, especially with the innovations I mentioned, smart accounts. You're able to do all the things that the blockchain allows you to do without even having to mention blockchain once. I think that's just a really good meta. If we want to really reach everybody and go to the billions of users, we need to let go of our technical terms. And there's ways around it now, especially the coming months. On the carbon credit side, there's essentially 2 pathways that we're seeing. One is people realize that the initial generation of carbon credits are just really bad. That's why we're seeing the innovations on the measuring, reporting, and verification. Bringing in AI and machine learning, IoT, makes a very, very big difference. We are able to verify with multiple sources. So for example, an underground app combined with satellite data, combined with a reputation system, just makes it much more trustworthy. But also we're seeing a broadening of the meaning of these environmental credits. So we're also now seeing development of biodiversity credits or credits that are also taking in other types of values, such as reducing inequality, creating opportunity, creating a safe space, that are also now being valued slowly. So I think it's really going to take some time before it's kind of mass market ready and everybody should be building an impact app, but we're definitely seeing positive developments in that direction that will allow it to be a proper, healthy market. There in the back.
Thank you for the talk. Just commenting on the previous question, we use blockchain and don't mention it for an application for energy communities where we basically do the payment between the members and don't need a bank for it. My question would be, if we think that thought further and you're thinking about wallets, how does a wallet look like if you don't want to mention blockchain anymore? Mm-hmm. And what wallet would you say is closest to what you think would be a good solution to kind of get around this kind of distrust in blockchain?
So my answer would be no wallet is a good wallet. I've been really obsessed with smart accounts for the past months. It's allowing you to embed the functions of a wallet natively in an application. So the user journey in, for example, friends.tech, which is like a newer application, you don't have to go to MetaMask and then go to a website inside of MetaMask. What you do is you go straight to the app. It says connect with whatever, save your backup wherever. It could be on a drive, it could be local storage. It could also be abstracted away to a third party. And by doing that implementation of smart accounts, you're able to create that whole kind of all the transactions, everything can be stored natively. So you no longer need a separate wallet and a separate application. And I think that that is really going to make people feel much more confident. And also just the experience of being a user is so much more stable if I just tell you, hey, go to this website, connect with whatever thing you already have, and you're ready. You can start transacting, you can start doing. So I think that that innovation specifically, I think, is going to allow us to just open up conversation with stakeholder groups that we've never been able to convince because they still had to go and write down crazy words and pay gas fees and all those things that were just hurdles along the way. If I had to pick a wallet right now, I would argue for something like Rabby if you're an advanced user, or something like Valora if you're mobile first, just because they are quite extensive and relatively simple. But generally, I do see that we're moving away from wallets being the main way to engage with a blockchain app and going more and more towards kind of app-native engagements, just like we're slowly moving away to almost like app-native chains and things like that. I think we can do a question, final question. No one? There. Nice.
So we've focused a lot on this talk around impact certificates. So being able to say, okay, I'll buy some carbon credit to be able to offset my impact. Do you have any good examples of ReFi projects that are going to be internalizing their impact and trying to reduce the amount of environmental damage they have internally and helping other organizations to do that?
Yeah, so I think the main front runners right now are layer 1s and layer 2s. They're buying carbon credits or different types of environmental credits to become carbon negative. I think that's like almost like corporate social responsibility, just the big corporate saying, oh, we need to look good. So that's like the first step that you're seeing with Polygon, Celo, Avalanche. They're all carbon negative. They're all buying on-chain carbon credits for that claim. But we're also seeing a next stage, like I mentioned, with projects like the Impact Market, projects like that are creating more detailed and more native solutions that are separate from the traditional carbon credit claims, that are also gaining in interest slowly. For example, Celo has a mandate to have X amount of their treasury in environmental credits. I still think that it's going to take some time, a good amount of time, for more projects to be able to have the focus on taking on impact claims into their balance sheet. And I'm even wondering if the majority of that demand will even come from blockchain native projects, or if it's more coming from government, corporates, individuals, all across the board. Does that answer your question or not really? No, but it's okay.
Any more questions? No? Okay, then thank you very much for your talk.
Thank you.
We are wrapping up here and doing a lunch break. This room will be closed, and at 1:30 will be the next talk in this room. Have a nice break. See you then.